American Transcendentalism. Nothing astonishes men so much as common sense and plain dealing. That quote is by Ralph Waldo Emerson. And that quote means, it's basically saying people in general have a tendency to read too far into things instead of looking at the big picture of a situation. And they get hung up on all the details. So when they finally realize that the answer to the problem was actually something simple and straightforward. What is transcendentalism? Transcendentalism is a philosophy that says our knowledge of reality comes from an analysis of our own thought process rather than from scientific evidence. According to the Transcendentalists, if God exists, he can be found through human intuition. Transcendentalism is most commonly associated with philosophical, religious view developed in the mid-1800s by a group of mainly Unitarian and agnostic intellectuals in New England, including Ralph Waldo Emerson and Henry David Thoreau, which I'm going to tell you a little more about those two throughout my slideshow. Both were very big on transcendentalism. Deism or deism. Deism is the belief that God created the world and then basically just went away. Like, where did everything come from? The trees, us, everything, the planets, everything. Okay, so God basically created us, and then the thought of deism is that he just left. So that means you don't have to pray to God. You don't owe God anything. God's not looking after you. He's not answering your prayers. You can basically live your life as an atheist with the knowledge that maybe God put this whole thing here. Now, in my opinion, I don't feel like God just came and then just left. God is always around. But that is just basically what deism is. The Transcendentalists. American Transcendentalism began with the format in 1836 of the Transcendental Club in Boston, Massachusetts. The magazine was famous for the dial, and I'm going to tell you about three of the most famous Transcendentalists of the 1800s, and those three consist of Ralph Waldo Emerson, Margaret Fuller, and Henry David Thoreau. Sarah Margaret Fuller was born the 23rd of May in 1810 in Massachusetts. Her father was a lawyer for 8 years, a representative of Congress, enabling him to move in influential political circles. Margaret was educated at home, but also she was a voracious reader and became well known for being one of the best read people in New England. She became the first woman to have access to the Harvard Library when researching a book on the Great Lake region. She also became fluent in the classics and several modern languages. Her thirst for knowledge was such that she felt, in common with other girls her own age, she was less interested in conventional pursuits expected of women. Fuller was hopeful of continuing her studies and beginning a career in journalism. Ralph Waldo Emerson. Ralph Waldo Emerson was born May 25th in 1803 to the Reverend William and Ruth Haskins Emerson. His father, the pastor of the First Church of Boston, chaplain of the Massachusetts Senate, and editor of Monthly Anthology. A literacy review once described the 2-year-old son, Waldo, as a rather dull scholar. Ralph Emerson is another big transcendentalist. He is very famous and well known. Ralph, he went to college. He went to Harvard College on a scholarship in 1817, where he pursued his studies in transcendentalism, and he was an unremarkable student. He made a very big impression to his contemporaries. In 1821, he graduated 13th in a class of 1,959 students. He was elected the class poet only after 6 other students declined the honor. It was at Harvard that he began keeping his celebrated journals. Emerson's quotes. A couple of his famous quotes. One of them are, "I hate quotations. Tell me what you know." And that basically means just say what's to your knowledge. Don't try to say what you think someone wants to know or what you think someone wants to hear. Just say exactly what you know. His second quote, "All life is an experiment. The more experiments you make, the better. The only way to have a friend is to be one." And on my opinion, I feel like that quote means all life is an experiment. Get out and try things. Try new things. The more experiments you make, the better. The more chances you take, the more knowledge you will have to certain situations. The only way to have a friend is to be one, which means don't just be introvert. Like, get out there and try to react and interact with others. Henry David Thoreau, the last transcendentalist that I'm going to tell you about. Henry David Thoreau lived for 2 years, 2 months, and 2 days by Walden Pond in Concord, Massachusetts. His time in Walden Woods became a model of deliberate and ethical living. His words and deeds continue to inspire millions around the world who seek solutions to critical environmental and societal challenges. Thoreau lived in the mid-19th century during the turbulent times in America. He was born in the nick of time in Concord, Massachusetts, during flowering of America, when the Transcendental movement was taking root, when anti-slavery movement was rapidly gaining momentum. His contemporaries and neighbors were Nathaniel Hawthorne, Bronson Alcott, and Margaret Fuller, and Ralph Waldo Emerson, which I told you about earlier in this slide. All of them share similar qualities and similar traits. On July 4th, 1845, Thoreau began his experiment in essential living simply, studying the natural world and seeking truth within himself.
Thank you for watching my presentation, and I hope you liked it.